right, we're going deep lore today.
Deep lore.
This is deep lore. This is like
more news.
This is like most people watching the channel haven't even heard of these companies, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's okay.
Who's this?
This is we try to cover all the news.
They're like, this isn't Games Workshop. I know.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sometimes you got to go in the weeds for drama, guys. Okay.
Yeah.
We feed off drama here. This is an announcement from Big Child Creative. So Big Child Creatives are a Spanish figure making company. They make absolutely beautiful sculpts for painting. So like they're like 75 mil busts. We've carried their products for a number of years, and we've really enjoyed working with them. They're really easy to work with. So about a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, they started talking about a partnership with MIG, who's a company also out of Spain. You'll notice a lot of these companies operate out of Spain. If you make things
all your
art,
hobby paints and things are made there. Yeah. So MIG Jimenez.
MIG Jimenez, yeah. So MIG Jimenez makes a lot of stuff for like more the scale modeling community, I would say, specifically. Everything from like weathering effects to like pigment powders to paints and brushes and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Like if you're in the scale modeling hobby, you will know all about MIG Jimenez. Sure. So they did a partnership to produce a new line of paints called Ionic Smart Colors. I think it was what they're called. Atom paints or something like that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Ionic Smart Paints.
I know the Ionics. Yeah, they tried to.
They sent us some like information about it. The problem for us wasn't that like the products aren't good. It's more just that ordering paints from Spain is not a easy endeavor, especially when you're like, I need to restock 6 colors.
It's we've learned over the years that it's just untenable. Yeah, it becomes. You run out of black, you run out of white, and then you're like, well, I don't have a restock coming for 6 months probably.
They need to find local distribution. Always, that's always the thing. We always push back on them and try to help them with that. But anyways, I'm going to read their official statement here. So, dear community fans, followers of Big Child Creatives, we have taken the time to share this message out of caution, respect for all of you, and an effort to resolve through the proper channels a situation we feel is profoundly unjust. Several years ago, we began a collab with Ammo by MIG Jimenez to develop a new line of paints. The result was Ionic Smart Paints, a range built with great enthusiasm and hundreds of hours of work. And what they're talking about is like what we've seen on if you're on social media, if you're on Instagram, if you follow Big Child, they've been showing these paints off for like over a year. They've been using them. They've been promoting them. Big Child contributed through its painters, network, and design and management team, all of its knowledge and experience in miniature painting. We developed the colors in collaboration with their chemists to define their behavior, created the brand identity, and developed the SMART concept with a vision of offering a product accessible to all kinds of painters and professionals. Our artistic direction and experience shaped the product you know today. Although we tried to formalize this collaboration with a written contract, we were unable to get Ammo to sign it. Even so, we chose to trust and move forward because we never imagined it would end up in this situation. That's a bit of a yikes to me. It's funny, a lot of people will probably stop right there and be like, well, you didn't have a contract. Like you didn't. How many times does this happen though in business? Like where you just trust people, like, and it's easy to comment and be like, well, you should never trust people. It's like, like people are like, in a lot of these cases, like have like friendships and like things, and you just don't really expect there to be a problem. Yep. You know what I mean? Yeah. And also say like, as much as these are companies, we're talking about a handful of people here, right? Like these are miniature companies. They're very small. Big Child especially is like a handful of people.
I mean, we have micro levels of this here all the time. Someone's like, yeah, put me down for this. And you're like, yeah, okay. This guy's usually reliable. Yeah. We might hold them a box and then they bail on it. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, some people are reliable until they're not, right? Like literally like years of reliability. Like you would go to war for this person, and then one day they just leave you holding the gun, and the cops are on their way. And you're like, what happened here? What did I read the situation wrong?
Although this is much more substantial.
This is a bit more substantial. Unfortunately, our trust was betrayed to the extent that the brand and logo Ionic Smart Colors was registered without our knowledge or consent under the name of MIG Jimenez's mother. It is a fact that speaks for itself beyond any version or explanation and adds to the ongoing lack of transparency. Okay. It's natural for Ammo by Jimenez to build their own version of what happened, but the facts cannot be changed. They have appropriated a product developed by both parties. almost denying or downplaying our contribution as if we had been merely a decorative addition.
Holy moly.
We were not. It was a partnership of equals that, had it been respected, would have built something much greater for the community. We don't deny the role, but we do not accept the narrative that Big Child was merely a casual observer or that they were the only ones to invest resources when our contribution was foundational. I think without knowing I'll just read the last bit here. Despite our delicate situation, we are currently evaluating the necessary legal actions to defend and protect our rights, our co-authorship, and the use of our image. But we didn't want to leave without sharing the truth. Sincerely, the Big Child Creatives team. And I think the reason you do something like this specifically is to kind of hopefully spook MIG into complying without having to go down the really expensive and like everybody loses legal battle that would probably happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's actually happening here is Big Child likely put in very little monetary resources, but put a lot of like sweat equity, right? Which is we don't know. This is purely speculative.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
I'm just guessing because like MIG's the one like physically making it, and it's and Big Child is more of like, you know, it looks like just based on the relationship, more consulting, helping them like, oh, this is the colors you need. This is what it needs to be like. We're testing it all out.
There's a moment where MIG was like, you guys aren't doing enough. I'm going to take this and F you or whatever. This is, you guys is like, I paid for this. I paid for it. It's a very landlord kind of mentality where you completely just don't, appreciate the contributions of like labor, essentially. Like people's like labor they put into something, right? I mean, maybe MIG's also upset with if it's not selling well.
That could be a thing.
I mean, Big Child did try and get us to carry it a few times, and we're like, it's not a few bucks, it's not $5, you know, it's a lot.
No, it's over an ocean and more than $5.
It's a lot. And I also have a lot of paint, so we're definitely in a range at a state of like max saturation in that front. That's for sure.
On a small random note, how do companies not send samples out?
Yeah.
Like that's to me foundational. Like you want someone to carry your paints, you got to at least be willing to send them.
I'm going to take it one step further. How do companies not take 5 seconds to look around and decide? Do we need to make? Does the market need more?
Oh,
does it need more? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it does not. I don't think so. In my opinion,
more paints.
More paints.
More paints. Everybody thinks they're special. Jay.
I know the hobby market is still exploding, and that there should be like tons of options and all this stuff. It's just like you better have something really damn special.
Here's what I think. So I think if you're a company that makes a game, it makes a lot of sense to have a paint brand. Like and I'm specifically talking about like Privateer Press right now.
Right.
Like and the new like Steamforged Games ownership thing. Like bringing back P3 to me makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If their goals are to grow War Machine back, not to what it was, but to something bigger. It makes sense if they're going to do painting videos and tutorials and like to have their own paints that they can show off instead of selling other people's things. I think in lieu of that, you maybe find a partnership that works really well. Like, and I see Army Painter is one of those companies that partners with a lot of companies. Yeah. And that's a really good thing to do as well, right?
Make some sets.
Look, I like their product. They make a good product.
Yeah.
We'll be partners and we'll make a bit of coin off of you and that sort of thing, right?
Yes.
To me, that's the no-brainer one for sure, especially since there's so many good paints out there.
Yeah, look, I love trying new paint. I really do. But it's the last few or whatever that we've kind of stumbled on. It's like it's just not. It's tough when you get something, a sample or whatever, and then you compare it next to some of the heavy hitters right now, and you're like, this is not up to snuff. Or it's not there. So then you're like, how am I going to put this next to this other thing? And how is it? You know what I mean? Like, not all the flavors are going to sell, and I don't know. But I'm not saying stop making new paint, but man, you gotta stop just like pooping it out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like just getting a well-known paint company to make a range for you. Like I feel like they're all just like anyone in their garage is making paint ranges right now. Like it feels like a little bit.
Yeah, you need to have a really compelling reason, I think, now. Like a really compelling reason.
Yeah.
It's like the poor gentleman that was trying to sell me a POS system yesterday, you know? Like he's like the 17th guy in this month or whatever, you know? I'm like, man,
the season.
I've heard them all.
The weather's nicer. They're out walking around.
I've heard them all. I've tried them all. you better be super compelling, you know? Like,
yeah, you're like, I want it to be basically free and do everything. Yeah.
It's like, I got you, like, you gotta just, like, you can't just undercut the one I have. You have to have mega undercut.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be stupid.
I know.
And they're just like sweating and they don't know what to say or whatever. But so one of the only thing that I would say adds some validity to this post is the fact that AK shared it.
Oh,
on their social
interesting.
Posting. So it was actually shared by AK, and they sort of hinted to like, oh, we know what they're like.
Well, it's got to be a small community. They must all know.
It's a super small community.
They must all know everything.
Everyone's last name is Vallejo. They're all like related cousins or something. Like it's everyone's.
Yes.
Well, and it's funny like that you mentioned that. And we know the history of Games Workshop and how the lead belt got started and like how all these people.
It's exactly that.
It has to be like that too, where like, oh, I worked in that plant and now I went and do my own thing and grew that business and someone there. And so like all these things kind of spawn each other, right?
They do.
Like, to a degree. So probably, everybody kind of knows each other.
I mean, AK's probably, they've probably been either screwed or don't like something or I mean, it's competition. So they're also like...
Yeah. So maybe it doesn't have validity, but it's just funny because they're like, of course they're going to come out and be like, oh yeah, MIG sucks.
Oh man, yeah. It's some of this is piecing together. Yeah, there's a lot of drama in the Spanish paint world right now. Yeah, it doesn't seem like Scale's having a great time either over there, as far as we know.
Scale, we probably have a future video coming soon on that. Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for the ball to drop there, but
yeah.
People are going to be like, who?
What?
That's basically
this. Isn't Warhammer?
People are going to be like, who? Scale what?
What's the scale?
Scale, well, Timmy, many years ago, Scale 75 was a thriving paint company.
It was.
And now they're not. And what happened?
What happened? Yeah. They were AK before AK.
They kind of were, yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of were.
So, what else we got? This is boring. There's the news.
That's the news. Yeah, I mean, like it's hard to like comment too much on it without knowing what actually happened, right? Like we just kind of wanted to share with people and get the word out there, and people can do more digging themselves.
Like most people are like, they're just like, I just want paint that works, and they don't really think about much more than that. They just want to be able to walk into the store and get restock that color when they need, and
I also don't think like most people aren't weirdos like us.
Yeah.
Where we're like, we have like 6 reds and we're like, oh yeah, this one stretches the best, and this one like covers like this the best, and like we all these weird sort of like just been doing it for 30 years. Most people are just like, give me a red.
Yep.
What reds you got? Tell me which one's good or whatever.
I always take for granted that the percentage, or whatever you want to call it, community of people that do paint, like actually frequently paint, actively paint, or always painting, is still really small.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? If you have like 10 war gamers, like 1 or 2 might actually be like people
Painters?
that finish armies and paint everything and art, like care about all. I'm not saying, sorry. Probably like 7 out of 10 people actually attempt and do paint a little, but I guess the people that like stick with it and continue. So it's
no, because it's freaking hard.
It is.
Yeah. And it's hard to. I think the one step people never get over, and which is what we try desperately to get people to come in with us, is getting over the fear of failure, and getting it to a point where they can just be like, their expectations and the reality kind of like mesh up a little bit, at least closely.
Yep.
Because otherwise, that's what shuts people down a lot, is that like, I can't get it the way I want it to look in my head, so I'm just not going to do it.
And there's the process.
Yeah.
It is humbling, because you go to the person, you're like, stop trying to take the tiny brush and paint this little individual piece of the model. You're like, you're just going to kill yourself. You're like, we got to broad stroke this more. Let's speed this up. We got to get to the 80%, faster in 20% of the time, and then we'll worry about the fine things too. It's tough. It can be crushing when you go to like, and so often the first 2-3 steps go by pretty quick and they look pretty good right away, and you're like, oh, and then when you get to the stuff that makes the model look really good, and it's hard.
It's hard.
And that's where attrition, that's where people can't handle the like, oh, I got from 0 to 80% in 20 minutes, and the next 20% is going to take 6 hours or whatever. Like that is, But you see, people have witnessed, Chris and I here, we're doing our armies, like sometimes, like, I'll get regulars, they'll come in and they're like a month later and they're like, oh, you're still working on that same unit? You're like, yeah, it's going to take me like 50 hours to do these 10 models to look like that in the cabinet.
Yeah. Like there's a cost to it, right? There's a cost.
But I, the only analogy that I find works is it's the gym, right?
Yeah.
You go to the gym.
You do your reps and
you just do the reps. It's often, most of the painting is you're just in there. It's so-called at the 5 a.m. or whatever, and doing your circuit or whatever you're doing. Like, it's even before work or whatever. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Well, we got got a little philosophical at the end there. That's a little bit added bonus for you guys. But what do you guys think about what's going on with Big Child? Have you ever heard of Big Child creatives before this video? Probably not. Maybe not. But yeah, it is kind of interesting to see what's going on with all these like Spanish paint companies. It does seem like there's probably maybe too many of them right now, and maybe something like
Spanish. I just think there's just like a lot right now. I you know what? It's probably not. It's not necessarily a bad thing in terms of like, the more the merrier. But probably like any market, there's going to be a shrink, like a it balloons and then it some of it has to collapse a bit or whatever because there's just too much. Likely, I don't know.
Yeah.
So. That's just
well, like that's the one thing is like they've all the smart ones at least have like, I think AK is probably the best example of this, is like in the last 3 to 5 years it has been really pivoting into wargaming stuff, like branding things with wargaming and doing that sort of thing, because they know their growth in some relation is tied to like GW's growth, right? Like if GW grows, these companies can grow too. They just have to be smart about it.
I mean, like ultimately this is why Army Painters blasted so long, and you got Citadel, like, despite being, kind of like, how do you describe it in some regards? 80% of the range is like, we could say, it's a bit of a harsh word, inferior to some of the best paint out there, but it's in all the stores, and that's what matters. And people are like very used to things.
Yeah.
So they always use this, and they're going to continue to always use X or Y. So AK is smart because they got in a bunch of stores. They made sure they get into distribution and all this stuff, and all these same with Vallejo, all these like pillar paint companies that have been there and done that. They're just in lots of stores, and stores aren't just going to like axe the rack. It's not simple to do. It's actually one of the hardest things to move off of, because you have like hundreds of people that are married to that line now, and then, so.
No, exactly.
It is.
It's a hard thing to do.
So that's the other. Penetrating that, getting on the shelf right now is super hard for that matter. So, and if it's not restockable easily, then like you said, that's it too. Right?
But it's another thing that keeps people around too, right? Like as you look at like Vallejo, the fact that they just have been in a lot of stores. Yeah, it kind of keeps them there, right? Despite them not really innovating as much. Now they did just recently redo their paints really nicely and that sort of thing. But like up until then, you're like, Vallejo's just kind of doing the same thing,
it's a valid argument to be like, what people are used to us, and if we change it, they might not like this new thing anymore.
It's true, because at the end of the day, it is paint. Yep. Like there's only so much innovation you can do with paint.
There's people that are like, they're literally like, oh, they changed how the black feels. I'm not using it anymore.
It's a big thing.
They'll just like, I'm like, wow, fair enough.
Yeah. Yep. It's just a little too satin. It's just a little too mad. It's just a little too like doesn't cover enough well now or whatever. It covers too well now. Like, correct. Yeah. It's all these dials up and down that people are making choices on. Yep. So well, let us know what you think in the comments. We talked about 70 different things there, so pick and choose.
Let's fill some time.
News of the day. Give us a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. And you can check out our Patreon where we have some, hopefully, time to do some news today about it. I think we'll probably have time to make a 5-minute video. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.